Hello and welcome to Maximum Disc, a show where I celebrate physical media and talk about films that I own on Blu Ray and 4K Blu Ray. My name's James Adamson. I'm a co-host on the Double Reel Film Podcast. If you like this chat about physical media, please do check out Double Reel. It's a magazine-style podcast made by people who love films as much as you do, and we think if you check out any episode, you'll come away with a good bunch of great recommendations of films to watch, instead of just consuming whatever the algorithm tells you to. That's the sales pitch for the podcast. Now we're talking about physical media. Why does it matter? Short version, if you care about a film, you need to own it. You can't rely on the streamers to make it available. If you're looking for something specific, you'd be surprised how often it's not actually available anywhere. If it is it not really the right version? Is it the director's cut, the special edition that makes the film work properly? And it certainly isn't going to look and sound its best on a compressed internet file streaming to your house through a pipe. So we're talking about owning a film on disc, so you really get the proper version of the film. Every episode I will talk about a film that I own. So I've bought it off my own bat, decided that I want to own it. I'll talk about it in terms that most people are looking for when they come onto one of these videos. What's the audio and video quality like? Is it a good transfer of the original film? How's that come out? I also talk about the background to the film, why it matters to me, why I came to own it, love it. And sort of rounding it up at the end, talk about whether I think this is an essential purchase. Now, that's a matter of opinion, but maybe if you're trying to make your mind up, whatever I tell you can help you decide to buy it or not. So today we're going to be talking about The City of Lost Children on 4K Blu Ray. So City of Lost Children came out in 1995. It's a French surreal steampunk fantasy film. I think that's enough kind of adjectives or descriptions. It's directed by Marc Caro and Jean-Pierre Jeunet, generally referred to as Jeunet and Caro, or Caro and Jeunet, whichever way order you want to do it in, from a script written by them along with Gilles Adrien and Guillaume Laurent. French film credits can be a little bit complicated. When there's two directors, even more so. So strictly speaking, Jeunet's role was to direct the actors, with Caro directing everything else and being in control of the sets and everything, but day-to-day their roles would obviously have blurred. In French films, they also tend in writing credits to separate story and dialogue. And for this film, story is credited to Jeunet and Caro with Gilles Adrien, with dialogue by Gilles Adrien, with additional dialogue provided by Jeunet and Guillaume Laurent. Confused? You will be. Jeunet and Caro were a partnership that started out in shorts and animation in the 80s and then briefly provided some of the most vivid and original feature films in France in the 1990s. They made Delicatessen in 1991, which we'll cover on Maximum Disc another time, and then they made this film, City of Lost Children. Their next project was the franchise sequel, Alien Resurrection. Unfortunately, this split up the partnership. Caro designed some of the sets before deciding the project wasn't for him. He left. Jeunet carried on alone and has sole directing credit for Alien Resurrection. Caro went on to work in various media as a designer, art director and filmmaker, as well as bits of TV work. And Jeunet had a solo directing career after that, including his most famous film, Amélie. So that's who those guys are. The most recognisable member of the cast to international audiences is Ron Perlman, taking the lead, despite speaking limited French. You might also recognise Dominique Pinon from Diva, which we covered before on Maximum Disc, and he's also in the previous Caro and Jeunet film Delicatessen. He followed them onto Alien Resurrection, where he also has a supporting role. Judith Vittet plays the child Miette, and there are various supporting roles from Danielle Emilfork, Geneviève Brunet, and Jean-Claude Dreyfus. The very celebrated French actor Jean-Louis Trintignant provides the voice of Uncle Irvin, who is just a brain in a vat. Cinematography is by Darius Khondji, an Iranian director of photography. He grew up in France. He's most famous for photographing David Fincher's Seven. He's worked with an array of big names, including Wong Kar-wai, Woody Allen, Stephen Frears, Bong Joon-ho, Sidney Pollack, and the Safdie brothers. He also worked on Delicatessen with this team. The score is by Angelo Badalamenti, who's most famous for his work with David Lynch, including the very well-known music for Twin Peaks. So in terms of awards and nominations, I think this film's a little bit overlooked, actually. It was nominated for the Palme d'Or at Cannes, to be fair. That is a pretty big nomination, but it only really got a couple of nominations from the Saturn Awards, which you would expect to have a bit more recognition for a film like this. It won a French César Award for its production design, which is one of the main attractions for the film. But apart from that, only a few obscure festival and smaller Critics' Society nominations with a couple of wins here and there, besides a bit of sound editing, bit of production design, that sort of thing. So probably not given its due at the time, in my humble opinion, because I'm a big fan of this film and I thought more people would have picked up on it at the time. Quick summary of what the film's about. It's set in some kind of fantastical steampunk version of a French city, maybe Marseille. It could be set in the past or in no time period whatsoever. People live in poverty in and around the docks on this city by the sea. There's a carnival or a circus that entertains passers-by in these dirty sort of streets, while children from the local orphanage are pressed into pickpocket gangs, tiptoeing through the crowds. On an abandoned oil rig just out to sea, a group of people, creatures, clones, brain in a vat. They've been created by mad scientists who since disappeared and now they're left by themselves. One of them is aging prematurely because he can't dream and tries to arrest this process by kidnapping children to his lab and stealing their dreams inside a mind extraction machine. A circus strongman called One has adopted one of the local children as his little brother, and when this boy is kidnapped by these scary Cyclops characters, cyborgs who live in the city and work for the people on the rig, he sets out to rescue his adopted brother with the help of another orphan girl called Miette, who just wants to get her friends back. Their journey together takes them into the nightmarish world of criminals, cyborgs, and the titular lost children, all within this kind of visually striking world, which seems to spring from the imagination of the filmmakers. So, my background with the film, why did I watch it, want to own it, all of that. I talked about this on the podcast because this was a film that I ended up, struggling, to see, or struggling to get over a mental block to see for a very long time. Back in 1995, I saw the Time Out review, the film magazine or the listings magazine in London. I saw the poster. I was fascinated by it, but then somehow I didn't get to see it. In that year, I was working sort of ridiculous hours. Some films I only got to see after a long shift if there was like a midnight screening, the night buses were running. Because it's an art house film, and didn't get the biggest release, so I just missed it. At the time, I must have thought, oh, that'll come round. I'll see it eventually. And it was never widely discussed. It wasn't easy to find to rent. It wasn't on TV. So I kind of just didn't do anything about that, just waited for the film to come round to me. I think that's why, frankly, I started the podcast that I co-host, because I wanted to kind of, get back into that mode of if you're interested in a film, make the trouble to go and see it. But for a long time, it just kind of sat there in the back of my mind. Occasionally, I dreamt about the film, which is crazy to think because it's 30 years. Why didn't I go and find it? I dreamt I was watching the film, or I dreamt I was in the film. And I guess after so long thinking about this film and wondering what it's going to be like, the way it reminded me of, Terry Gilliam and another kind of surreal and striking films that I really wanted to know about, I guess I just thought, oh, what if I watch it now and I don't like it? So I got stuck in that mode. What if it fails up to live up to these expectations after all these years? So on the podcast, Double Reel, we have a classic theme where you get around to watching a film you've been meaning to see by just saying, well, now I'm going to watch it. You set aside the time, you put it on, you watch it. Tough luck if you've got some mental blocks, preconceptions, just watch the movie. So that's what I ended up doing, and ended up talking about it with my son and co-host on the pod. And then I absolutely loved it. It was, it was a streaming version, which I then bought. I bought on streaming because I couldn't find like a decent disc. I'd heard bad things about previous copies, so I had this streaming version. And I absolutely loved this film now. It was everything I hoped it would be, and weirdly, it was everything I dreamed, which, given this is a film all about dreams, it really sort of, got stuck in my head. And eventually I saw that there was a 4K version of it on offer, which I just had to own. Now let's talk about the disc. This is the standard UK release of the 4K Blu Ray. It's got a slip cover, but it's not a steel book or any other form of collector's edition with extra packaging or anything like that. It's been newly remastered by Studio Canal with the full HDR treatment, so it's the best available sort of resolution that you can get of the film. As far as I can see, it is the version of the film that was released in 1995. There's no additional footage, director's cut or anything like that. It's a 2-disc edition, so you've got one 4K disc with the film on it, obviously in Ultra HD. There's a standard HD Blu-ray with the film in normal HD, and all the special features is the second disc. The special features that you have include a new interview with Jeunet and Caro about the film, so it's nice to see they're still on speaking terms, even if they're not a working partnership anymore. There's a making-of featurette and a behind-the-scenes interview with costume designer Jean-Paul Gaultier, of which more later. And Jeunet does an audio commentary on the film, which is available on both discs. So The video, which is obviously the first thing we want to talk about in terms of the quality of the film. For a bit of technical info, this was mainly shot on 35mm Eastman film, but some footage was shot in 16mm when they were going for a particular dark and grainy effect, which I think is the view through the eyepiece of the Cyclops. They used Technovision cameras and spherical lenses. I'm not sure what that means, but it's a good-looking film with a particular kind of style to it. It contains the most amount of CGI used to that point in a French film, but that sort of thing was still in its infancy, and I think they made the wise decision to still make extensive use of practical sets and effects. They only use CGI for certain things. This is the era in which the best use of CGI was in '93 with Jurassic Park, where there's not actually that much computer-generated footage. In terms of the physical sort of imagery of the film and the sets and all of that, Mark Caro really goes to town to provide this really lavish and incredible, production design. It's all shot on a soundstage. You also get costumes by Jean-Paul Gaultier, which are very striking. The colour schemes are very sort of strictly controlled. There's lots of red and green. In fact, almost everything is red and green. At one point, I think you see a dustbin which has been painted red. That's how much detail's gone into just maintain this colour scheme. There's a record player in close-up where the record player and the vinyl record that's playing on it are also green. So there's a really sort of careful use of colour through every aspect of this film. It reminded me a little bit of Wong Kar-wai films where each set's got a specific colour scheme to it. It's got a real steampunk feel. It's science fiction or fantasy, but there's a very kind of old world kind of look to it. It's some sort of combination of Jules Verne, Terry Gilliam, and Your Last Really Weird Nightmare in the best possible way. How does it look? Absolutely incredible. It's really, really good. I mean, there are discussions of the fact that if they were to come out with an 8K format, this film might already have hit its ceiling. But it's a really amazing video. I compared this to the streaming version, and there's absolutely no comparison. On the streaming version, it's just that the colours, the resolution's good. It's a UHD streaming version, and the colours look good, and it's nice and clear, and all of that. But when you put the disc in, the colours are just so much richer and deeper. It envelops you, and this film's meant to do that. It's one of those ones where it's not just sort of 4K for the sake of it. You really do feel enveloped by this dream world because everything is so lifelike. So it's really amazing. I mean, you've got sort of the oil rig set, you've got the Docklands set, you've got the sort of the bit around the, in the water under the ships. There's underwater scenes, there are explosions, and the video is just incredible. You also have this really striking underground cult called the Cyclops who feature in it, and everything they do is really dark. I think there's a movie called Dark City, which feels like it borrowed from this film. I mean, those things happen. That's what happens when it's striking. And frankly, some of these visuals you'll probably see or be reminded of in commercials and stuff where the people who make those films are always influenced by like striking films that they've seen. This is so satisfying for me because for years I literally dreamed about what this film would be like, and now when I watch it, it really does kind of pull you in and make you wonder if you're dreaming while you're watching the movie, and the video is so important to that. So this is really spectacular. It's muted because it's dark. It's mostly shot at night, and it's not, again, the sort of brightest, wildest colour schemes you'll ever see are in something like The Fifth Element, and this is much more kind of muted, but the colours are so rich and vivid. That red and green, Ron Perlman's hair is dyed red. He's in a red and green sort of sailor outfit, and everything is just so... It's so much more powerful with the 4K, video. It's a beautiful remaster, which has been amazingly kind of reproduced here on a video. So I can't say enough about it. The sound is very good. The French sort of language, which I mean I don't go for dubbed if I can really avoid it, is a 5.1 from DTS, and it's very good. I don't think that much of this. This film has like super challenging effects, but there are explosions. There's some really atmospheric scenes. I talked about the underground scenes of the Cyclops, and there's a lot of clanking when they're on the oil rig, and all of those sounds come out very immersively making full use of the 5 speakers. There is apparently a 2.0 sort of stereo English version, which as I understand it, is a very nice, reproduction of the original. Some people have got discs of this with the stereo French sound. This is 5.1. It's really good. When it needs to, it really cranks it up, and for the most part, it's just about really nice, clear sound. The score comes across really well. Angelo Badalamenti, he works with David Lynch. He lives and breathes in this sort of surreal world. A lot of the musical motifs it sounds like the sort of the standard kind of sounds of the circus, that musical theme tunes that you traditionally get with a circus, which is then turned into something that's slightly off kilter and nightmarish, and it's really nicely done as well. So all of the sound, it comes across really well. It's not Atmos. I don't think it needed it though, and it's really, really solid sound that comes across really well and makes good use of your system. There's a couple of big explosions and some gunshots and chase scenes through the night where you can hear the footsteps at a distance. It's really nicely done. So overall, I absolutely love this film. It's one of the few films, I think, where, if you've been imagining for 25 or more years what a film's going to be like, and it's just one of those things you've never got around to watching it, there's always that fear that when you do sit down to watch it, you're going to be disappointed. But I wasn't disappointed in the slightest. Terry Gilliam would have loved to have made this film. I've seen interviews or read quotes where he's very complimentary about it. Guillermo del Toro, who I like, would kill to have this film on his IMDb filmography. I often admire Guillermo del Toro films more than I love them. That's a me problem. But I have to say, I absolutely love this. It really kind of delves into it. Is it perfect? No. I think because it's so impressionistic, sometimes you can look at it and go, well, I'm not sure what this film is trying to say. I don't think it's necessarily trying to say anything. I feel like rather differently to something like Buñuel's Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, which is much more kind of has a sort of a different formal presentation of the surrealism and seems to have some specific themes that it's trying to say. This does have themes, and people have read into it about that it's about capitalism and the loss of innocence and all that kind of thing. But I think a lot of what it is that it's a dream world sort of landscape that makes you think hard, about what you're watching and tie it back to your own dreams. So now when I look back on this film, you can't ever remember your dreams properly. So now when I try and remember, is this film the way I dreamt it? Of course it feels like that in my brain now, because now I've seen the real vivid images for the film and that's bled into my consciousness. It's dark and brilliant and subversive, and you care about the characters as well, which is really important. I think this film's an absolute triumph, and this is a really good reproduction of it on film. Isn't it an essential purchase? Well, look, if you absolutely despise, French subtitle films, if you don't like strange surrealism, it's maybe not for you. But I think this is an absolutely magnificent film. It's one of the best films of the last 30-odd years. Absolutely incredible film, beautifully done. Certainly, if this sort of slightly surreal, steampunky sort of world building is up your alley, this is as good as it gets. If you like Terry Gilliam, then what the hell are you doing with your life not having this as well? And it's a really, really, really good 4K Blu Ray of it. So for me, definitely an essential purchase. So that's City of Lost Children. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed talking about it with you. If you like this chat about physical media, as I say, please do check out the podcast, and ways to find us will be on the screen in a moment. But in any event, I hope you'll be back sometime soon for more physical media chat right here on Maximum Disc. The Maximum Disc YouTube channel is brought to you by Double Reel, the monthly magazine podcast for the discerning film nerd. If you like our celebration of physical media, please check out the podcast for more chat about the films we love and hate.